Video game movies tended to have a bad rap back in the day, but in the recent years we've gotten some really good ones. Though at the time it looked like Sonic the Hedgehog was not going to be one of them. But thankfully, Paramount actually listened to the fans and we got this much better redesign. However, the redesign did lead to an absence of merchandise in time for the first movie. But thankfully, the second movie and onwards did have a lot of merch. And as such, I wanted to catalog them and talk about if they are good or bad, and as such, we are going to look at all of the Sonic movie action figures. Now, as I said, the first movie did not get any merchandise to the redesign, but at the time there was some listings on the Toy Wiz website. Special mention goes out to these performance figures, which we have no idea what that could mean. The only thing that came out from these assortment was the Baby Sonic plush, which looks very... You also got a Baby Sonic keychain at Japanese places. Now, its design is not very accurate to how it looks in the final film, as instead based on this concept art and old CGI model of the character. And yeah, it looks better, but still not perfect. But you can also get it with the Sonic Colors Ultimate, released in 2021. The only other plastic Sonic movie figure was this launcher set, which comes with a, oh my god, there he is! Oh, geez. Anyway, yeah, that's similar to the Tomy Sonic launcher. So what you do is you pull the ripcord, and Sonic will spin dash and try to hit the Robotnik ship. It is a neat novelty item, but it's not really much of an action figure. But yeah, it really does suck that we couldn't get those performance figures. Like, I know I joke about the ugly Sonic design, but it still would have been neat to see. Now, I want to kind of speculate on what they could have been. Now, in the films, the quills have big importance. So maybe it's a figure where you have, like, a quill, and then you could, like, attach it to the figure, and they start, like, talking and lighting up, like, and saying stuff from the movie. I think that could be cool. And it would work for Robotnik, too, though I question which Robotnik design they would have used, whether it be his original black look, or more than likely the flight suit. But yeah, the quill power would have been really cool, and I'm assuming that could have been what it was, but any guess is valid in this case. After the movie, we did get this statue from Diamond Select, and it looks very nice, and it's based on the final battle. But yeah, that is basically the only, standard Sonic you could get in plastic form, besides these really terrifying cup holders. So, unfortunately, the first movie kind of just skipped a bunch of the merchandise just due to the redesign. But the second movie was different. Now, Sonic 2 was actually a better choice for merchandise just due to the more Sonic characters that are in the film. And as you can see, the packaging looks similar to that of the normal 4-inch figures, and these figures are also 4 inches. We're starting with Sonic himself. Figure looks pretty accurate to the CGI design from the movie, though there is this weird inaccuracy with his chest. As for the articulation, it is basically identical to the 4-inch figure, but they actually included elbows this time. However, the skinnier limbs on these figures add for a bit more of a gummy feel. It comes with a snowboard accessory, which is very nice, and overall, it's a decent little figure, but I would be careful with him, as he is kind of fragile feeling. The second figure in the line is Miles Tails Prower. Now, the figure looks a little off compared to how he looks in Sonic 2, and that's because I believe it is based on the Sonic 1 post-credit scene, just due to the fur color. The articulation is pretty similar to Sonic, but his arms are a lot worse, especially in the elbows, as the gummy plastic really affects him specifically, just due to how much thinner his arms are. And same thing with his legs, as the knees also have trouble bending. You also need to have his tails firmly turned to actually get him to stand. He includes a blaster, which is a nice character-specific accessory, but overall, his Tails figure is kind of bad, unfortunately, just due to how gummy the plastic feels. It feels like I'm going to snap the elbows every time I try to use them. The third figure in the wave is Knuckles the Echidna, who looks very accurate to the CGI design used in the film. The articulation is pretty similar to the other figures, except that his head doesn't move. It's also a lot better than the previous figures, just due to his more chunky limbs, allowing for some good movement, even if the legs are a little stiff on my copy. It's nothing that I'm worried about breaking just due to the fact that his limbs don't feel pencil thin like with Sonic and Tails. The figure includes a snowboard accessory, which is not very accurate to the film, which was just a piece of a robot, but it is accurate to this piece of concept art that we found online. So yeah, overall, Knuckles is one of the best figures in the wave. And the wave ends with Dr. Robotnik. Now, the figure actually does look pretty accurate to Jim Carrey's look from the movie. The articulation is the most interesting of the line, as instead of having the same articulation, no bicep swivel exists, except he has a double-jointed elbow. along with no wrists. However, for the legs actually have a thigh swivel, which is very cool, and double jointed knees, allowing for some pretty good posability for such a small little figure. He includes his egg drone and coffee accessory, which is very cool, though the figure is sadly a little short. But still, he is probably my favorite figure from the wave, and overall, the first wave of this line is a bit alright. Sonic and Tails are definitely not as good as Knuckles and Robotnik, though. Now, before moving on to the second wave, I should also mention there was a 2.5-inch line. The first one to mention is this 5-pack, which comes with the same 4-inch figures, but now scaled down and with less articulation, along with the Buzz Bomber, which is neat, but doesn't really do much. The other figure set I want to mention is the Death Egg robot playset, which does look interesting. It's not very accurate, and it only has the upper body because of the arm slamming gimmick, but it does come with a nice little bridge diorama piece and a Supersonic, which does look decent, though his eyes are green. Now, the only other 2.5-inch thing to mention is the Tornado Plane playset, which does look very cool and does come with a Sonic and a Tails wearing a very cute pilot cap. And yeah, I'd say that's the best of the 2.5-inch set. Begins with Sonic and Knuckles repaints. The Sonic repaint now has electricity, and the Knuckles repaint also has electricity. Sonic figure also comes with better accessories, coming with the map from the second movie, along with his ring pouch, while the Knuckles figure just comes with a giant ring portal, which it does look very nice. So yeah, both of these I'd say are improvements over their Wave 1 counterpart. The next figure in the wave is Pilot Cap Tails. Oh my god, look at him, he's so cute! He comes with his backpack along with the gizmo wing that is used at the wedding scene. So yeah, this figure, despite being the same base mold as the original, I can't hate it. It just looks so cute with that big pilot cap's hat. I'd recommend him as a much more unique variant. The final 4-inch figure is Supersonic, who does look very accurate to how he looked in Sonic Movie 2, though early copies have green eyes, including mine. Now, for the articulation, despite being very similar to Sonic, the art quality is really bad. The head has no friction. My elbow broke on that arm, so I only have elbow movement in one arm, and even then, it's scared to use it because the other one broke. And the legs are the worst. They pop out when I try to move them up, because this figure feels like it's made of gummy plastic. It doesn't like to stay in. And beyond that, it just doesn't feel great to play with, and he can also not stand very well. He comes with a Master Emerald, which is at least a positive, but still, I would not recommend Supersonic that highly. Now, before moving on to the Sonic 3 toy line, I wanted to highlight a few extras. There's the Sonic and Knuckles Amazon 2-pack, which just has reissues of the first wave figures. There was also the Sonic vs. Knuckles Face-Off 2-pack, which has the reissues of Sonic and Knuckles from Wave 2, but without their accessories. Instead, they come with a Master Emerald, which is a neat, cool inclusion. Now, their main thing left to talk about is the Sonic Outfit 3-pack, which has Sonic in 3 different outfits, those being the baseball outfit, the party outfit, and the snow outfit. My favorite is the party outfit, though the only new mold among the set is the snow outfit, which does look pretty cool, but there is no tails to go with it. The last thing to mention is the RC Sonic Racer, which does look cool and does have a little Sonic figure on top that does move at the arms a bit. But beyond that, it's just a standard RC car, with the ring being the controller. You can move it forward or go in a circle. It's pretty cool, but it's not really an action figure. And yeah, that's it for Sonic Movie 2. So let's move on to Sonic Movie 3. Now, Sonic Movie 3 had an interesting question, because they already pretty much perfected the designs from the last movie, so what did they do? Well, they changed the scale to be 5 inches, but that's not all. They also removed all accessories with the figures. So yeah, let's see how Sonic turned out himself. Now, the big thing that these figures are known for now is having really good articulation, including full bicep swivels, elbows, wrist pivots, finger hinges, waist, legs, thighs, knees, and even some ankle movement, allowing for the figures to really be expressive and hit a lot of good poses compared to what they used to be able to hit. So yeah, overall, I would say that this Sonic is the definitive movie Sonic for you, and you should skip the previous one and just go with this one instead. Next figure I want to cover is Tails, who looks very accurate to how he looks in Movie 3, unlike the second film. Now, the articulation is pretty similar to Sonic, except with a few points missing, namely bicep swivels, thigh swivels, and waist articulation. But that is due to the fact that his tails now actually have some more joints that can make them rotate and pivot outwards in a few directions. So yeah, this is a very cute looking figure, and I'm happy to say it is a lot better than the movie 2 version, which felt very fragile. Following Tails, the next figure is another Robotnik, who is not actually based on how he looks throughout a majority of Sonic 3, and is once again based on the Sonic 2 look, which is kind of weird. But thankfully, the articulation is a lot better than the movie 2 figure, actually having full-on bicep swivels and also featuring some wrist movement too. But best of all, he also has torso movement, allowing for some nice crunch action to the side, as well as some good movement in the legs, and the ankles especially finally have pivots, allowing for a lot better balancing. And yeah, overall, this is a pretty good figure, though he does once again have the scale problem like the movie 2 one, but still, between the two Robotniks, I'd say this one is a lot better. And I didn't even hate the second one, so that's saying something. The final figure for Wave 1 is, of course, Shadow the Hedgehog, who looks very accurate to how he looks in Sonic Movie 3. Now, as for the articulation, it is very similar to Sonic the Hedgehog himself, though it does have a much better head just due to the way the quills are shaped. And yeah, the articulation in general on these hedgehogs is very good for their body types. It's basically identical to like some Marvel Legends or even like import figures like Figuarts and stuff. The Shadow figure is probably the best of the first wave, though do be noted that he does have some brittle legs, so do be careful when posing him. But still, for the first wave, both Sonic and Shadow are the MVPs. And let's just hope Wave 2 continues this greatness. Before we move on to Wave 2, let's quickly look at this 4-pack. Now, while it does include an exclusive Knuckles, we won't talk about him because he comes out later. The main exclusive figure is the Tails, which has an angry face variant. However, the Sonic and Shadow in this wave actually have light-up features, and ooh, that looks really cool. And yeah, now, does a 4-pack worth it just for those? Probably not, but thankfully, if you are in the UK, you can get them separately, which is a much better deal. The only other 5-inch figure to mention is the Motorcycle Shadow, which does look very kind of inaccurate to how the motorcycle actually looked in the movie, but it still gets the point across, and best of all, Shadow is removable. As for Hida Shadow's articulation, it's a lot similar to the movie 2 figures in that he only has 13 points of movement. But he is still 5 inches, and I think that is a good thing, because you can actually swap your normal, highly posable Shadow figure onto the motorcycle and create some very awesome poses, and so yeah, I recommend getting it just for that. There was also this 10-inch Talking Sonic, which looks very cool, and also has light-up eyes and quills, like the light-up 4-pack version. But still, not much to really say. And lastly, there was also a 2.5-inch multi-pack, which comes with Sonic, Shadow, Knuckles, the Buzz Bomber, and the Egg Drone. Buzz Bomber and Egg Drone are unchanged from the Sonic 2 figures. Knuckles has a slightly different expression, Sonic's a new mold, but not much different, and Shadow's mostly just the 5-inch version shrunk with a lot less movement. So now with all that done, let's move on to the Wave 2 figures, finally. Wave 2 begins with Supersonic himself, who looks a lot closer to how he actually looks in the movie than the movie 2 version, as his eyes are all red now. As for the articulation, it is basically identical to the Sonic figure, though because the quills are pointed upwards, the head has much better movement all around. Beyond that, though, there's not much else to really say on him. This is probably the best Supersonic figure you can get in general, even if it is based on the movie design. Thankfully, they don't change too much between the movies and the games. Shadow the Hedgehog also got reissued, but with a grimace on his face now because they needed a variant because Shadow was going to be the big character that was going to sell a lot. But either version's fine. The other figure in the wave is the Chow mascot Tails. Oh my god, she's so cute. But sadly, there's really not much else to say beyond the fact that he's really cute looking. I mean, it's the same body mold and the articulation is completely unchanged. So yeah, get him if you like cute things, like me. And Wave 2 ends with Knuckles the Echidna. The figure looks very accurate to how the character looks in both films. As for the articulation, it is very similar to that of Sonic and Shadow, though because Knuckles has dreads on his head, his head is unable to rotate in any direction, unfortunately. But beyond that, the arms, legs, and waist all remain the same as between Sonic and Shadow, though his ankles are a bit limited just due to the way the boots are designed. But yeah, Knuckles is a really good figure, like with the others, and it's nice to see a new mold, since this was the only brand new mold this wave. Hopefully Wave 3 introduces some nice new molds. If not, though, this quality is still really good for what they are. Before we move on to Wave 3, we gotta mention the new Light Up 2-pack, which has Super Sonic and Super Shadow, and this is great. Now, this is how Super Shadow was first leaked to the public, but that's who cares? It was so cool, and we kind of expected it anyway. And yeah, these light up figures still have the light ups and they look really nice. But sadly, the articulation is a little limited compared to the normal 5-inch figures, just due to the electronics in the heads and the chest. But still, overall, you should get this 2-pack just because it's really nice and it looks really cool. But sadly, there is no single releases. You have to buy the 2-pack. For 2.5-inch, we started to get some singles now. The only ones worth mentioning are Tails, Robotnik, and this Chow Mascot Sonic, as the rest of the 2.5-inch singles are available in multi-packs. Speaking of which, we got a second one, that coming with a Super Sonic, a Shadow re-release, a Master Emerald re-release from the second film, a new Egg Burrito drone, which is neat, and Agent Stone. And yeah, Agent Stone is the reason to buy this pack, because he's not available in any other scale, and he looks good next to the 2.5-inch Robotnik. So yeah, definitely buy that pack if you were a fan of the Agent Stone character from the movie universe. Now, obviously, you need somewhere to play all your 2.5-inch figures. That's what this Crab Mech playset comes from. It looks very nice. It has a few points of articulation, but its main gimmick is that you can actually fit the figures inside of it, like with the Sonic piloting the top of it. And you can also have it hold them in the claws, which is neat. So with all that said, let's move on to the final wave of these figures with Wave 3. Wave 3 begins with a Sonic re-release, but now he has the Master Emerald that came with the Super Sonic from the last movie. This figure's the same overall, though, so if you missed him before, get him now. It's still a good figure. Now, the Knuckles in this got a re-release too, but now look at his hands. He has the Flames of Disaster! And yeah, this makes this one a better value, especially since they are removable. So get these two over their original counterparts if you have the option. But if not, don't worry, they're cool variants that you can skip. The first sort of new figure in the wave is Super Shadow, who does look pretty accurate to how he looks in the movie, though the shade is slightly off, but it's a tough shade to get right, so I'll cut it some slack. The articulation is identical to the standard Shadow, as this is just a repaint, even coming with the Wave 1 frowning expression instead of the gritted teeth expression of the second wave. But it's still a really good figure, though. Do be careful with the legs like usual. But yeah, Super Shadow is a great figure, just like normal Shadow, and him and Super Sonic together look really great. And they are definitely probably the best figures in the lineup, either because they use the same good body molds as the original. Final figure in the wave is the only new mold in the wave, and that is Gerald Robotnik. He looks very accurate to how the character looked in the film, and as for the articulation, it is very similar to his grandson. In fact, it is pretty much the exact same, except for there's no torso. It's just a standard waist movement, but it's still more than enough for this character. And yeah, you should definitely grab one because Jakks did not make a video game version of this character, so this is your only option if you like the character. And yeah, with that, we can now officially be done with the 5-inch line. For 2.5-inch, we got one final multi-pack. It contains re-releases of Buzz Bomber, Egg Burrito drones, and Sonic. We also have a Super Shadow, which is a repaint of normal Shadow, and a Gerald Robotnik. Now, sadly, we also were supposed to get a Chow Garden diorama set, but that never came out. We got this leaked photo of it, which is very sad, as it would have been very cool to have that diorama. But still, Movie 3 is clearly the best of the movie toy lines. It's not even a competition. Movie 2 could have been alright, but the quality control on a lot of those Movie 2 figures is very bad compared to what the Movie 3 figures have produced, plus their articulation's no comparison. With Movie 4 on the rise and showing off 2 brand new, highly anticipated characters, I'm excited to see what Jakks will do when the movie comes out. Hopefully continue these Movie 3 figure quality, and hopefully we can see some other characters that I would like to see on the big screen.